All right, good morning. Wake the hell up, ladies and gentlemen. Brushfire Mind, it's Meme War Monday. And we're going to talk about the meme that is.
Tell me,
Where in the world is
Ruth Bader Ginsburg is
The question of Ruth Bader Ginsburg's health. So, all right, first things first. That little snippet there is I stole that from Louder with Crowder. Uh, and if he wants to launch a lawsuit over infringement rights, it'd be totally worth going to court just to shake hands with and laugh at he and half Asian lawyer Bill Richmond, who
and
would,
quarter black.
and Quarter Black wouldn't mind shaking hands with Quarter Black either. But I don't know, man. Half Asian lawyer Bill Richmond is he's pretty much OG. I like Bill.
Yeah, yeah, he's got a permanent spot on the show now.
Yeah, and frankly, he kind of reminds me of my Uncle Bobo. Um,
But doughier.
yeah, toward the end there, Bo lost a bunch of weight, but yeah.
Fair enough.
Anyway, Billy Boy's young yet. Give him a minute. So I want to. Mostly, we're going to talk about the meme that is the location of Ginsburg today. That's going to be our primary focus. Uh, because this is just what's going on. Um, but there's two reasons I want to talk about this today. Obviously, Ginsburg went through some surgery last week to remove some cancer, to be treated for cancer. I think this is the fifth or sixth time she's been treated for cancer. Uh, and remember, when we're talking about having questions about Ruth Bader Ginsburg health,
Just point
uh,
of clarity. Pretty sure it's 3, but it's still multiple cancers.
yeah, it's multiple cancers. But remember, when we're talking about having questions about the health of Ginsburg, she has been asked if she intends to resign, and her answer is always something along the lines of, "I will stay on the bench for as long as I can do this job at full steam." That's an almost direct quote. She used the phrase "full steam," but she has said several times that as long as she has the capacity to do the job, the faculties to do the job to its fullest requirement, that she'll continue to do it. Well, she's a liar, because by saying that, she's suggesting that if she were unable to do the job, if she were unable to meet the demands of the job, then she would resign, because that's what a responsible person would do. And the fact is that several decisions have been entered on her behalf by her staff over the course of her infirmament. And remember, we're talking about this woman. This woman, right here, who said of this picture, I was not entirely sober at the State of the Union address. Oh?
Guess she's high on Percocet.
Oh? I mean, even if it's not that she has a drinking problem like Nancy Pelosi or Hillary Clinton clearly do, and it's just that she requires an enormous amount of medication and palliative pain medicines to keep her upright. Well, they're failing, as we can see here. Uh,
No, what's failing is her health. I mean, all all jokes aside, she's in her 80s. She's had multiple health issues, and and not just cancer. Like, if you'll recall, a few months back, she had a fall, cracked a
broke
rib.
broke several ribs.
Yeah, yeah, that's not something you do when you're in good shape.
Right.
That's not even something you do when you're in bad shape. That's something you do when your health is failing. But look, the real reason she's sticking on the court is Cheeto Hitler bad. I mean, if she resigns, then Trump gets to replace her. And at this point, if he replaced her with a moderate as opposed to a conservative, it would swing the court. And RBG is just a hero to the lefties, man. I'm sure you've seen the quote passed around where somebody asks her how many people need to get appointed to the Supreme Court
Oh yeah,
before you
9.
feel like it. 9. Yeah,
There
that's
need to be
not.
9 women on the court. There have been 9 men on the court, and nobody's ever said anything. Yeah, okay. You know what?
Shit up your nose.
I heard somebody complaining earlier that, well, only 25% of Congress are women. Yes. Only 25% of the people who run for Congress are women.
Yeah, I mean, duh.
That's proportional representation by definition. We're not proportionally represented. Yes, you absolutely are. That there's not a slight majority of women in all positions is not representative of some mythical patriarchy preventing them. Women don't go after those jobs in the same rates as men do. And it's for one simple reason. No one can raise a baby alone. There is no such thing as a parent who raises a child alone. That creature does not exist.
There's another reason too, and since we're just diving in with both feet here, men are by and large more aggressive and more competitive than women. And running for office is literally one of the most competitive things you can possibly do. So the fact that more men run for office, again, it's not patriarchy, it's biology. It's the fact that most women just wouldn't want to. Think about think about Sarah Palin, for example. Her son with Down syndrome, it was alleged at one point that it was actually all sorts of crazy stuff. Like, first she had had an affair with some man other than Todd Palin, and then it was alleged that it was actually one of her daughter's babies, and she pretended it was her baby in order to cover it up. I mean, who wants to go through that?
Right.
Nobody.
Now, to be
So
clear, my point is, even if you're a single mother working full time, working above and beyond full time, you're not doing that without paying someone to watch your children or having someone do it as a favor. There's no such thing as a person who can raise a child alone. The optimum situation, the best possible situation, is that the mammaries stay where they feed babies because that's what they're made for, and the I can't feed the babies not milk thing goes out to acquire the rest of the resources needed for milk thing to continue to produce milk, while not milk thing continues to acquire resources to enable the acquisition of resources for the milk thing production and effective feeding of baby.
yeah, it's the reason why we have a species that has survived ice ages and bubonic plagues and stuff like that, because we have a clear division of labor. The if you've ever seen that old show Dinosaurs, when the baby whacks the dad over the head, not to mama, not to mama, not to mama. When I was a kid, that was funny because the baby was funny. As an adult with 4 children, ooh, buddy, there's a whole lot going on there with that joke. But yeah, our RBG, she's a woman, right? And That's
And
part of why
her
she's on the Supreme Court.
her sticking around despite her clear health problems and incapacity to perform the profession is frankly another example of her long career of dangerous and unconstitutional judicial activism. I mean, we're talking about the woman whose opinion on gun rights is that there is no right for the people to keep and bear arms, that there is nothing in the Constitution that says that an individual can own a firearm under any circumstances, full stop. That's the opinion that she issued. That's the opinion that she signed on to in the Heller case.
This is the same woman that is of the opinion that if you get an opportunity to rewrite your Constitution, you don't use the American Constitution as a benchmark. So,
right. And the same woman who was one of the authors of the opinion that from the unenumerated, I'm sorry, from the, how did they phrase it?
penumbra.
From the ephemeral penumbra of unenumerated rights in the Constitution, we can assume, under the auspices of privacy, that a woman has the right to kill a baby which is inconvenient to her. An opinion which, by the way, has paved the way for what we are now arguing, which is whether or not it's constitutionally protected that a woman should be allowed to kill her child after it has been born. An argument which I might add has gone so far as to give us the Virginia law, which, I need to look into that. I haven't seen any news on it. I can't. They may have quietly passed it for all I know right now, but the language of that law makes it clear that not only may a woman choose to abort her child shortly after it's born, for any reason, basically any reason at all, the law cites that if the child presents a threat to the woman's mental, physical, mental, emotional, or financial health. So literally she can just say, I can't afford this baby, kill it. It makes, it sets no requirement or restriction based on the viability of the child. So it's not like we're talking about, well, the baby came out with an exposed brain and will die in 5 minutes, so we might as well put him out of his misery. I can even see a good argument there. I can see a good argument for using termination to prevent suffering, to end suffering perhaps, but I can't afford to raise this baby? No, sweetheart. That's not a good reason to kill it. But that same law goes so far as to say that the doctor may make the same choice for the mother for any of the same reasons if the mother is incapacitated. Keep in mind, we're talking about a time at which the woman has been potentially doped up with huge quantities of drugs, which have quite certainly altered her mental capacity, her decision-making and rational capacities. And that's assuming she even remains conscious in the several minutes immediately following the birth, which it's not at all uncommon for a woman to fall asleep or pass out from simple exhaustion after a birth. During that time, the doctor can make the choice and say, I don't think this woman's smart enough to raise a baby, or I don't think this woman's emotionally stable enough to raise a baby. Let's get rid of it.
Yeah.
And please, go fact check me on that. Go read the law and tell me I'm lying to you.
Long story short, Ruth Bader Ginsburg is this bizarre sacred cow. The left, and the feminist left in particular, worship her, but she actually has disdain for the country, for the Constitution, for the concepts that underlie it. And I mean, the only reason
and the
Bill
traditions
Clinton
of the court. And the traditions of the court. This is a woman who was She was perfectly happy to speak openly, negatively, and very, very partisan politically about President Trump during his original campaign. And that is something that the court, that the justices of the court simply do not do.
Right. Right.
So she's not even an adherent to the traditions of her own office.
But I mean, let's be real. The reason why Bill Clinton appointed her is that she's female, left wing, and her last name is Ginsburg. That's why she got appointed. It's identity politics at its best, baby. And now she's trying to make it far enough into the election, because that's really all that needs to happen. Because once we get somewhere around 6 months away from the presidential election, even if she does step down or die, well, we'll be too close to the election. I don't see being able to jam somebody through the Senate that quickly. And frankly, at that point, that might actually be bad political strategy for the Donald. You could make the case that he drops a conservative in her spot and solidifies his base. You could also make the case that he drops a conservative in her spot and further enrages the left. This is all about her hatred of Donald Trump, her disdain for the Constitution, and by extension, her disdain for people like Chris and I. Now, there are a lot of people that when David Koch died, basically danced on his grave. And the only time I'm ever going to do that is if you're a child molester, Jeffrey Epstein. However, any other situation, I'm just not going to do it. And Ruth Bader Ginsburg will not see 90. She won't. You go right ahead and make that bet if you want to, but it is what it is. So when she does pass, I don't plan on dancing on her grave. I do think she should step aside. I do think she is a rather reprehensible character. Like, why are you even on the Supreme Court if you don't agree with the institution of the Supreme Court itself? Oh yeah, Chris mentioned that already. Judicial activism. But yeah, sacred cow. Yeah, well, no such thing as a sacred cow.
And I think we need to start wrapping it up in just a second here. We're about to hit 20 minutes.
Yep.
Let me say this about judicial activism. It is not possible for, and this is an exercise in, this is a thought experiment type of thing, because the claim that I'm about to make is a sort of no true Scotsman fallacy claim, but there's merit in it on this particular case because of the construction of the court by the Constitution. In theory, the court is supposed to interpret the law within the confines of the law and the Constitution. It should follow that it is not possible for a constitutionalist conservative judge to do judicial activism. Judicial activism is the opposite of constitutional conservatism, because judicial activism is when the court, by definition, it is an abuse of the power of the court, essentially to write law in lieu of the legislature. Ginsburg is a judicial activist. I won't say that it is impossible for a so-called right-wing judge to also be a judicial activist, but in theory it should not be possible for a conservative justice to be a judicial activist.
There's a fantastic quote from Thurgood Marshall, another hero of the left. And I'm going to paraphrase it because I don't remember it exactly, but he basically said, you jam it through and you make it legal. And you worry about how you're going to fix it later. Maybe tomorrow morning I'll pull up the exact quote and read it just for clarification. But this is the thing that left-wing judges do. They say, yeah, we're going to take a moral stance as opposed to a legal stance. And that's not what they're there for.
Oh, I was hoping I could find that quote for you real quick. I don't see it.
That's all right. I'll have it ready to go tomorrow. So anyhow, that's our 20 minutes.
That is, in fact, yeah, that is, in fact, our 20 minutes. All right, good show. Can't wait to go back and listen to this one in a half hour or so and see if the sound turned out all right. And I will talk to y'all later. Have a great day. Go set some people on fire. Go spread some enlightenment. Spread some truth. Make them know it. Keep them warm for the rest of their lives. See you tomorrow.